above, and I believe in truth. I believe in the love we have, because I believe in you. So tell me, do you feel the way that I feel? Then tell me, would you give what I'm willing to give? And I believe in honesty, and I believe it's true, and I believe if you set it free, it will come back to you. And I believe the things were meant to really be, and I believe in the love we have, because I believe in you.
Okay, we have, I do believe we are live on icurecancer.com. This is Ian Jacqueline. I have my lovely co-host Cynthia Brooks. Are you there, Cynthia?
Yeah, I am. Hi.
Hey, darling. How are you doing today?
Good, really good. Happy International Women's Day.
Happy International Women's Day. That's right. Yeah. To you, too. Especially to you there, my lady.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm glad you remembered it, because I would have forgot.
Oh, no. I love that they're doing this. And, just right now, just want to shout out to some of our female listeners, Gloria, Unknown Helen, Mirana, I'm sorry if I pronounce your name wrong. I'm just looking at the people, you know what I mean, who are here celebrating with us. So, I just wanted to say thank you to that. I want to thank, I just start with my thank yous. I think I watched too much Oscars.
Yeah.
I just caught myself. I'd like to thank the Academy for ignoring me for 50 years. But I do want to thank, Indiegogo. As you guys know, I'm running another campaign, to raise funds for my charity, to financial aid, to help patients who want to treat themselves with alternative medicine and don't have the financial means, and, working really, really hard on that. Really want it to get much bigger than it is right now, and it's going in that direction. I want to thank everybody out there who's been so supportive too of the campaign. Also, just want to thank Indiegogo for doing this, cause today what they're doing is for every $25 that is raised, they'll donate $1. And, at first it doesn't sound like a big deal, but, when I went and another
Yeah, right on. I'm not even sure if we're live right now. It looks like we are. It sounds like we are, but I'm reading here that a couple of guys are wondering. Anyway, I guess we'll just keep going. I think we may have lost our guest for a second, but let's finish up on. Is that good? Did you get your announcements out, Cynthia?
Oh yeah. So we are live still?
Yeah, we're still going.
you're live and your guest is on the air with you now.
Oh, okay, right on.
And
So,
I just wanted to say for those new listeners who don't know me, I was diagnosed, with terminal cancer 17 years ago and cured myself. Went on quite a journey and cured myself in 8 months with alternative medicine. If somebody who had written me, it was like, "What? Why are you doing this charity?" So Ian and I have known each other so long, we just assume everybody else has known us for like 20 years that we've known each other.
yeah, well, let me just throw in there that Cynthia is the reason for all of this. iCureCancer.com. We were doing a play together in Los Angeles, 17 years ago, and she had cured herself of cancer, and I had overheard her telling a friend that. It's the famous little whisper that I was like, "What did you just say? You can't cure cancer. What are you talking about?" So we were already friends, and we did that play, and over the years I saw how it was true, and that's why I made the movie I Cured Cancer, and then our paths crossed again down the line, and now we kind of work together trying to get this word out to people. So she started it all, folks, and she's starting this charity to try and help people that were like her, had cancer but didn't have any money to buy decent food or supplements, because unfortunately in our country today we can't get good medical. And that's what our guest is you guys are gonna love this guest today, especially after the last guest I had on Thursday, just bringing some respect back to the people, bringing some power back to the people, because we have to start learning what to do ourselves. It's unreal what's going on. If I have a child that has cancer, now I'm an expert in curing cancer. I know how to cure cancer better than any oncologist on this planet, and I will go to him toe to toe. You get anybody out there, with the exception of 2 or 3 that are already my friends down in Mexico that know how to treat cancer. There's a few of them out there, but I'm just saying if you're a Western medical doctor, I think I could probably give you some tips. And one would not to be do chemo, because chemo does not cure cancer stem cells, and that's the reason why we die from cancer, is the cancer stem cells, not the cancer cells. Chemo will kill them. Radiation will kill them, but radiation won't kill cancer stem cells. Cancer stem cells will become stronger because of the radiation. So I just know myself from my own wherewithal. I did the research to figure out if I did have a kid, because I plan on having one someday, what if they got cancer? And they're going to be forced to chemo radiation surgery. I do know 2 or 3 kids I'm following right now that have cancer that's been cured by the cannabis hemp oil. That's anybody that's done their research knows is working very well with the high THC and CBD, folks. At least you know about CBDs now. A lot of you do. But the THC is what's curing the cancer. So anyway, what we're trying to do is teach people how to cure cancer on this show. And we also like to talk about our freedoms, because that's what good is knowing how to cure cancer if you're not allowed to do it. I know how to cure cancer, and I'm not legally allowed to cure my child. My friends have cured their kids of cancer using the cannabis hemp oil, yet are being forced chemotherapy for another 2 years, because that's the standard of care in America. Now, I'm sorry, folks. Let's just go make some citizens arrests. We have to just start knocking doors down and saying, "Hey, you're arrested." That's all there is to it. I mean, we'll get the LAPD behind us, the sheriff department, whatever state. I say we got to start doing this, folks. I don't know why we can't go and make citizens arrests to the people of Monsanto, because we all know now. I mean, I kind of forgot, because I've known how horrible Monsanto's been for years, and I kind of was waiting for the public to catch up. And now that you have, I'm starting to think maybe we should just start going and arresting these people, because if you look at all the other countries, they've all fought Monsanto. They've kicked Monsanto out of their country. America, unfortunately, we're the biggest bitch of Illuminati, about the 1%, so we just sit here and take it. But I think it's time for us to stop doing that and stand up and make some citizens arrests for the people of Monsanto, because we don't want labeling GMOs. We want no GMOs. See how smart they are? They got us to fight them on that, to actually say, hey, maybe we should make them label then. No, screw labeling. Take them out of our system. They're no good. We know that, you bastards. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little upset.
Easy there, big boy. Okay. Here comes the warrior.
You know what happened? Because I didn't get to go to yoga today. I'm so upset. I woke up 15 minutes late and I missed my yoga class. I'm like full of fire.
That's gotta be it.
Yeah.
Just also in there, a little gentle touch. One of the greatest things we all can arm ourselves with is information, and that's where I'm coming from. Is just to inform the people, and we've got a lot of information now. It took me 8 months climbing through, this physicist and that, microscopist and this scientist to try to put together, a protocol for me to cure myself of cancer. But, there was barely an internet. So I had to get in the car and go to these people. And so the greatest, armor that you can have is information. And that's what we're trying to do, is just inform you on every level, not only about your health and how to take care of yourself, but also your human rights.
Yeah. And I gotta remember, thank you for chiming in, and Reverend Lynn taught me this, I gotta remember this, to kill them with kindness and fill them with love and thank them, because if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have known the system was screwed up in the first place and figured out how to cure cancer properly. So thank you, Big Pharma.
Much better.
There we go.
Much better.
Yeah. And on that note, let's bring in our guest. We got another great guest, Vincent Finelli. Now, this guy's huge. He's like on the Alex Jones, network size. I mean, I can't even believe he's going to be on my show. It's such an honor. Vincent, are you there?
I'm here, Ian. Now, wait a minute. I'm on Genesis Communications Network, but Alex is number one. I am not number.
Right.
I'm not number one.
Well,
Alex is number one.
Yeah, he's definitely the man. He's the granddaddy of funk for all of us, as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, right on. But I mean, you're pretty big too, man. It's a true honor, and thank you for being on the show. And we're really trying to get into this. I need to make it. We need to get freedom back in America, because I can't stand it anymore. I'm sure you can't. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got into this? Just go way back in the day a little bit, and then bring us up to par.
I'd just like to say hello, Vincent, and thank you so much for honoring us. And it's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on our humble show.
Well, it's my pleasure. What, Cynthia and Ian, I'm a farmer, okay? That's what I do. I live on a farm and I raise Black Angus cows. And I have since I jumped off the corporate ladder back in 1989. So I used to have a job. And that was, the last time I had a job was in 1989, and I've been raising these cows. So I live on a farm, and as a farmer, I look up and I look down. I can see the chemtrails, and I can see the impact that the chemtrails are having on my animals. This year alone, in January, when we had the massive change in weather, temperatures, minus 14 degrees here in Missouri, we lost 10% of our annual calf crop. So 10% of the calves that were born, that would be born all year, I lost. They died from the freezing cold. They were born in January, and they died from the freezing cold. They just cannot sustain coming out of their mothers and then hitting minus 14 degree weather. So I know the weather's been changed. I know that violent climate change has been engineered, and I don't like it. And I don't like the fact that our freedoms have been taken from us. And I don't like the fact that the police are grabbing us and pulling us out of our vehicles and then arresting people for not having a concealed carry permit when it's perfectly legal for them to have a gun in their car, in their pocket when they're in their car. But yet when they get dragged out of their car, then they are in violation of the law, having a concealed weapon without a permit. So I object to these kinds of things that are happening to we the people. So I decided that I wasn't going to take it anymore. Nobody knew who Vincent Finelli was many years ago. But I decided to get above the radar, in the radar, and start exposing the corruption and the crimes that have been committed. In order to do that, I wanted to have an expo, and I wanted to teach people the things that I see and observe. But, I have relatives like many do who think that, we're nuts. We survivalists, we preparedness-minded people are crazy. So I decided to bring other people in to say the same kinds of things that I say. And maybe my outlaws or in-laws would listen to them a little more than they might listen to me. So I embarked on building a very large preparedness expo. It's called the Get Prepared Expo. We've had 6 of them. And I brought in the experts to share their message, which is the same kind of message that I have. But in order to do that, I needed to advertise. So I went to a radio station, the smallest radio station in Springfield, Missouri, and I talked about advertising. And the general manager of the station ultimately said, I'll tell you what, we're going to give you your own radio show. So that's how I got involved with radio, and that's why I'm on the radio. And my message is simply survival, preparedness, the corruption. I'm an activist, and I'm working to get other people to understand what's happening to them. The lies that we're being told are just over the top. So does that get to you? Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Back to you.
Oh, Vincent, yeah, I just wanted to chime in on that a little bit. I think you'll like this. Excuse me. Excuse me as I choke on this message. You know, I feel like I'm living a very interesting and strange life. Like, these things happen to me, and then I have to find my way out of them. And speaking to the chemtrail, I thought you'd find this interesting. Every time I go about a new journey, there's always an internal resonance that, you know, there's a reason for this. And the listeners know I belong to the philosophy of broader intention before we even make it into the physical. And when I go into these, I go with an open mind. Now, I've been hearing ever since my cancer journey from, you know, the physicists and scientists about chemtrails, and I never believed it, and I never not believed it. I'm still there. I'm still in a point where I'm just taking in the information with no judgment and an open heart. But back in August, I moved to this beautiful building with a beautiful sparkling pool, and it's, you know, just really clean and lovely. Sitting there with my friend, and I'll make the story short, something hit my arm, and it stung like a wasp sting or something like that. Looked down, and it was just this little tiny kind of, so small, you know, top of a pinhead, kind of greenish something, and I thought maybe some kind of acidy bug had landed on me, and when I brushed it really quick, I had, you know, maybe killed it, and I was looking at its gut. Long story short, I've got some dear friends who are in the military and very high ranking in security, some of the highest security clearance. I went to 3 kinesiologists. I was not muscle testing for, you know, a bug. I was muscle testing for a chemical, some kind of chemical. The military people, one of them is saying he's pretty sure that it was chemtrail droppings. And the other scientists we have on the show are in agreement with that, or it's fallout from the radiation from Japan. And so, as I, you know, started snooping around with this, I'm not the only one that's been hit by whatever this is. And I know so many of us don't even want to believe it's up there. But I have physical experience. I got hit with something, and it really did start taking on the characteristics of spreading and the itching and, you know, all of this, the characteristics of a chemtrail burn. And honestly, you know, then somebody gave me this product called ASEA, which is redox signaling molecules, and that cured it like overnight. So that's good to know. So I'm like, am I on this journey because I am the healer by nature? Am I on this journey to, you know, help with, introduce people to ASEA, that this is battling chemicals or radiation? But, I just wanted to tell you that story. I would love to hear your thoughts on what I was hit with as well, but there's something out there for people who don't believe this or whatnot. There's definitely something out there because I got hit by it and have plenty of witnesses to it.
Cynthia, here's my reaction. Now, I live in the middle of nowhere. The closest town to where I live has 100 residents. There's 100 people that live in town. There are only, there's a farm cooperative, there's a general store, probably, you know, from the, I would say well over 100 years old, and there's a post office with 1 parking space. That's town. That's
I love it.
That's where I live. Okay? And I live outside of that town. So my nearest neighbor is, a mile and a quarter to a mile and a half away from where I live as the crow flies. So I'm trying to describe the situation. So I can see the sky.
Right.
What I see in the early mornings is jets flying, laying out these chemicals, out these discharge nozzles. And they fly from horizon to horizon. And the discharge dissipates within about 15 minutes. So you'll see a trail, and then it feathers out, and then the sky turns dark gray. blue-gray. And these are laid down. Last Monday, I counted over 20 of them. And you can look from horizon to horizon, and then, the blue sky becomes gray. And then they do this in the morning, just as it starts to get daylight. And then they do it again at night, just as it's starting to get dark, when people aren't paying attention. And when they do this, within 2 days, you will see a massive weather change nearby. So maybe within 500 to 1,000 miles. So what happened is, I'm talking about this massive spraying, and then the East Coast gets pummeled with snow.
Oh.
Okay? Those are the kinds of things that happen. Now, here's what it's doing to farmers. Farmers are dependent on moisture, and it used to be, I'm 61 years old. So when I was growing up, you could look at the Farmer's Almanac and you could see on May 5th, a year in advance, what the weather was going to be like. And it was accurate. You could look on April 14th and you could see what the weather was going to be like. It would say whether it's going to rain and what the temperature was going to be. It was accurate. Now, we can't do that anymore because the weather's being manipulated. It's being manipulated with these chemical trails across the skies, discharged, I believe, by the military. I don't believe it's a private contractor doing it. I believe it's the military. If it were private, we could probably figure out who they were, or if it was commercial aircraft, we could figure out who it is. But we can't. I believe they're taking off from military bases. Anyway, so what that's doing to farmers is the animals cannot handle these massive changes in temperature. So I lost so many calves, I couldn't believe it. And people are saying, Vinny, it's just you. So I went to the farmers' cooperatives, and I talked to other farmers, and I'd say, what's happening with your cows? They go, oh man, we're losing our calves. They can't handle these massive weather changes, 40-degree changes within 2 days. They can't handle it. Well, our cats, we have 5 cats, and they live outside. Everybody on the farm has a job. The dogs are on patrol. The cats are looking for mice so that the mice don't eat the wiring in the tractors and the vehicles and so forth. So all the animals have jobs. So they're outside a lot. Our cats, all of them, are sneezing. Why are they sneezing? Have you ever heard a cat sneeze? It's pretty rare. So something is in the air that's causing the animals to sneeze, the calves to die, and it's not just ours. So here's what's going to happen. We farmers are now feeding between 2 and 4 times the amount of hay that we would normally feed because the temperature is so cold. So those of us who have grown extra hay last summer to feed our cows just in case the climate changed, well, we're running out of hay. I'm going to run out of hay in a couple of weeks. And other farmers are going to run out of hay in a couple of weeks. And those are the ones who haven't run out of hay already. So we're going to be forced to sell our cows on the market all at the same time, which is going to drive the price down for us. You know about supply and demand. So then we sell our cows. There's a glut of meat on the market. The consumers say, this is great. Beef is cheap, and it will be. And then when we need to rebuild our herds, the cows won't be available for us to buy. So the price for us to buy cows to replace our stock will be high. And then the price will go up even higher for the consumers. So there'll be a temporary dip in prices, followed 12 to 18 months later by a massive spike in beef prices. Mark my words. So those are the kinds of things that are happening to the farmers. And when I said we look up and we look down, what I really mean is we do look up. We do look up at the sky and we say, wait a minute. Where are those clouds that we used to learn about back in the 1950s and the 1960s? Stratus, Cirrus, and Nimbus clouds. Where are they? Why is the sky just dark all the time? What happened? We're now in an age of global dimming. The sun has been dimmed mechanically and chemically.
Just out of curiosity, what is your opinion? Because I've lately had a few people have a pretty good argument saying the chemtrails aren't what they are. Like, I've always thought they are. They're poison, they're barium, they're aluminum dioxide, and they're part of the Agenda 21 or whatever to kill us all. what's your thoughts on that? I mean, because I've heard a couple good counter arguments, and but I'm always up in the air, open.
I'd love to hear a counter argument because I see them. I know that on our farm. Let me just describe our farm. It's in the middle of nowhere. Half of it's woods, and half of it's open. And by open, I mean pasture. Fields where the cows can graze, or we raise hay on those fields. Well, I can tell you that we have more trees dying than ever before. I'm talking about trees without leaves. The trees are struggling. Now, why is that? Why are the trees struggling? They didn't used to struggle. They're struggling. And people, if you look at the temperature, we have a propane shortage right now, right? The last time I bought propane was a couple of years ago. I paid either $1.19 or $1.24 per gallon. Currently, in Missouri, the typical price that people are paying for a gallon of propane is $4.49.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So and they're using more of it. So not only is the price triple, but they're using 2 to 4 times more. People are being wiped out in terms of for their heating costs, their food costs, their fuel costs to drive their vehicles. We are in serious financial trouble. I'm not talking just about farmers. I'm talking about everybody. And if you look, Cynthia, you mentioned cancer. I've got a question for you. Do you know of any family that you personally know that does not have someone in that family who has cancer? Is there one?
No. That's the thing is, the purpose for this work and my charity and whatnot is because there is not one person who has not in some way been touched by cancer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So if you look at the food is contaminated. In my studio, let me just reach for it. I hear some noise here. Okay, I'm in my broadcast studio where I broadcast Monday through Friday, 2 hours a day in the mornings. I'm looking at a dosimeter. It's a civil defense dosimeter to measure the radiation in the environment. And this simple device from the 1960s keeps climbing and climbing and climbing. And we've had reports of radioactive fallout from Fukushima here in Missouri. Now, Missouri is roughly in the center of the country. Let me share some more. We're all over the map here on this broadcast.
That's good.
But in Rogersville, Missouri, about 40 or 50 miles from my farm here, there was a calf born. A cow with 5 legs. Now, I understand that there are birth defects, but when was the last time that you heard of a calf being born with 5 legs, 1 leg coming out of the calf's face? Have you ever heard of that?
No.
Okay. Now, I can't prove it, but, the first thing I'm thinking of is Fukushima. That's the first thing I think of.
Yeah.
Because when I lived on the East Coast many years ago, I'm talking about in the 70s, when I lived there was a nuclear accident that was covered up. It was called 3 Mile Island. And I remember stuffing sealing material under the doors, in the cracks of the windows, and staying inside for days during this release of, it's just steam. Don't worry about it. The news reports, the TV, the radio, it's steam. You don't need to worry. It's just steam. Water vapor. Don't worry about it. There was a meltdown. And they released radioactive material into the environment, and they lied. Well, 10 years later, I was watching television. That's when we had television. I don't watch television anymore. There's no reason to watch television. So, why would anybody watch 20 minutes of commercials to see 40 minutes of bad programming? Anyway, so when I watched this news report, there was this family downwind from 3 Mile Island in Pennsylvania. And this man lived in a neighborhood, and he was saying, and he pointed up and down the street, he said, every house has cancer. Every house. no family had escaped cancer. Not extended family. I'm talking about within the neighborhood. Every single family had some member at least with cancer. And then the camera pointed down toward his lawn, and he picked up this dandelion leaf. Now, dandelion leaves are maybe 2, 3, 4 inches long, right? Well, he picked this one up, and he stretched it out on his arm. He had his arm stretched out as far as it would go. The tip of the dandelion leaf was on his fingertips, and the end of the dandelion leaf was at his face. It was 3 feet long. So he said, this is not normal. This is a mutation. And this is all over in this area, downwind from 3 Mile Island. Well, one of the instructors, and that's what we refer to our faculty on our broadcast Monday through Friday. It's called usaprepares.com. We have a faculty of very interesting people. And one of our faculty members is a medical doctor in Europe. And I'm not going to say exactly where, but let's say downwind from Chernobyl. This doctor was telling me about the birth defects. The birth defects from Chernobyl, we're talking about 3 fingers, 6 fingers. I'm talking about humans. I'm talking about hands coming out of shoulders. I'm talking about no legs but feet. I know that I have a picture somewhere here on the farm of a horse that was born with 8 legs, downwind from Chernobyl. So if we're going to talk about the lies, that is a huge lie. The cover-up of that. And the former Soviet Union, what did they do about that? Well, they knew that the downwinders were at risk of being poisoned with radioactive materials. 1 atom of plutonium in your chest cavity is a death sentence. 1 atom. Well, what this former Soviet Union did, and what would we do? I mean, if we had an area that was downwind, I mean, if I were in charge, I would put a fence around it. I would keep people out, and I'd say, don't go in here. Well, that's not what they did. What they did was they built a computer system, and they let the cows graze on it. They let the cows eat the radioactive material that came out of Chernobyl, and that radioactive meat was then distributed with this computer system to make sure everybody got his and her fair share. Can you imagine that?
Oh my God.
Yeah. No, I'm being perfectly serious. So these are the kinds of things that governments do. It's outrageous. And we think that they're for us. We think that they're on our side. We think that the government is us, we the people. That's not true.
Right.
No.
I have 2 questions for you, Vincent.
Sure.
And possibly a little statement that, since I have 2 TV shows coming up, not all TV is bad.
No, I'm talking about mainstream, the old media.
I know you are. I know.
Old media.
Actually, I wonder, you're just so brilliant and loaded with information. I was wondering if you could clear, I have 2 questions. One is, can you clear this up about the argument, and just know that some of us are nowhere near on the same level on this subject. But some of the arguments that I've been hearing, what's interesting is when they argue about the chemtrails, I hear and see fear coming out of them. That's always interesting to me. But can you address, in layman's terms, that these chemtrails are not just condensation coming from, regular passenger jets? Sure.
It's easy to prove. If you look up at the sky, you can see the contrails, condensation trails coming out of normal products of the combustion of the jet fuel mixing with oxygen and air and the cold temperatures up there. So there are condensation trails. Absolutely. But those contrails dissipate very quickly. So if you look and from this distance on the ground, you say, boy, that jet is really tiny, but that contrail seems to be about 4 inches long. That's a contrail. A chemtrail is one that goes hundreds of miles, horizon to horizon. So that's how you can easily see it. And here's another thing. I was in I flew out to meet Sheriff Richard Mack, and there's an organization called the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. They want to take America back also. So I flew out to meet them. There was a convention in Las Vegas. And I got a chance to see I don't like flying. Believe me, I don't like flying. I know that some guy's going to stick his hands down my pants and, enjoy that a lot more than I am. So
maybe a girl too.
So anyway, I've been looking at these chemtrails from the ground. Well, I got a chance to see them from above the clouds, and I saw thousands of miles of clouds covering the earth, and we were above the clouds, and I saw chemtrails being sprayed above the clouds. So I took pictures of them. So what I'm saying is I am absolutely positively convinced that these chemical trails, different from condensation trails, are absolutely real. And I know that when I look up from our farm in Missouri and I see a massive spraying, that we're in for a weather change. Let me explain a little bit more about this. One of the instructors we have on the air is the real Fox Mulder of the X-Files. Okay, he wrote the first 6 episodes of the X-Files, and it was not the FBI. It was the U.S. Navy. And there, by the way, there is no Scully. It was a bunch of guys. So Chris Carter put Scully in there to make it more interesting, I guess, for the TV viewers. So Richard Allen Miller, Dr. Richard Allen Miller, is a physicist, the lead physicist for the U.S. Navy at the Pentagon at one time. So he's on the air with us, and he comes out to our farm from Grants Pass, Oregon. And he stays at the farm when we have our expo. So he and I were going to the expo on day number 1 of the expo. And we're leaving early in the morning, and he's looking out the window going toward Lebanon, Missouri. And he goes, "Vinny, look at this. Look at all these chemtrails. We are in for some. This is going to be wild. The weather is going to be wild." Well, it was April. We had, that afternoon, we had hail. We had, you see those videos where the trees are blowing during a hurricane and the leaves or the branches are sideways and the rain is coming down sideways?
Yeah.
Well, it was warm in the morning, and that's what happened by the afternoon as a result of these chemtrails. And we talked about it for days. Another time we had an expo, and all of a sudden it rained like crazy, and it was 70 degrees outside, and we had 3 inches of snow.
Wow.
And it happened all of a sudden. And we were driving my four-wheel drive truck back from the expo, and we saw these police lights ahead of them. It's just rain. What's the problem? I mean, yeah, it's a lot of rain, but we didn't realize that the rain had frozen, and it was a sheet of ice, and cars were sliding off the road, and it was 70 degrees that morning. So it's pretty interesting how these chemtrails drive violent weather changes. So
Right.
I am absolutely convinced it's real. It's costing me, our animals, they're dying, they can't take it, and it's not just me. So I'm here to tell you our food supply is in jeopardy. And I believe you mentioned that, the plan is to kill us. Well, yeah, it really is. It really is to kill us. Ted Turner said that he's looking for a population reduction of about 90%. That means 1 out of 10 gets to live. By the way, who is he? Has he put his pants on differently?
I have a question about that. Again, both now, I want to direct this both to you, Vincent, and Ian. So the intention behind all of this is massive population reduction. How does the Illuminati benefit from that if, because really they're dependent on us. They're dependent on the masses, really, at
They only
some
need
point.
500,000. They only need 500 million.
Ah,
Yeah.
Cynthia, have you ever been to Washington D.C.? The District
No, I
of
haven't.
Criminals? Okay.
and I just want to type in that I'm sorry I'm playing devil's advocate because
I think it's great.
I understand everything you're saying, I'm just speaking for people who might have questions like that. So sorry to be the devil's advocate.
No, it's
No.
good.
I think it's wonderful that you're playing the devil's advocate. Well, here's why I asked about Washington D.C. There's a beltway around Washington, and the last time I was there, it was about 5 or 6 lanes wide, and it just circles, the center of Washington, and it's in gridlock during drive time. So in the morning, gridlock. In the evening, gridlock. So people are going to work, gridlock. People are coming home from work, gridlock. Now, I've been stuck in those traffic jams on the Beltway. And I just said to the person in the car with me, there's a limo over there, there's a limo behind us, there are all these limos. And that's where these Congress critters get shuttled around in these limos, right? So they don't drive. They don't have the frustration. But imagine one of these Congress critters tapping on the window, the dividing glass between the driver and the back there where these critters are, saying, "Hey, who are these people in front of me? Don't they realize that I'm important? Don't they realize I have important things to do? Don't they realize they're tying me up using my gasoline, contaminating the air with their tailpipe emissions? Don't they realize I've got stuff to do? Who are they?" Now, if you look at it that way, it's really clear to see that, let me just pick any town, okay? Any town, USA. Let's say it were vaporized. I'm not advocating it, of course, but let's say it was gone. Like, during this broadcast, that town just disappeared. So, what does that mean? Does that mean that the rest of the country can't continue? We'll do fine without them, won't we? How about another town? How about 10 towns? How about 10 cities? Do we really need all these people? How many plumbers do we need? How many electricians do we need? How many concrete workers do we need? How many people do we need flipping each other's burgers, cleaning each other's houses? We certainly don't make anything in this country, do we?
Right.
We don't have a steel industry.
This is what I want.
I see your point. Yeah,
I don't know why they don't just start saying, you know what, we've got all the jobs covered. And here's what I thought the perfect thing would be. We need a certain amount of workers. We don't need all you anymore. There's too damn many of them. Most of you should just go lay in a pasture somewhere and dream and think of the next free energy device. But those of you that want to work, we're going to pay you as if you're a lawyer or a doctor. And anybody that's getting a cheesy, or not cheesy, I shouldn't say cheesy, I should say like a mellow job that's not nasty and dirty, digging ditches, breaking bones, and get bleeding, you don't get paid near as much. But point is, if you don't want to work, don't work, because we don't need all of you to work. Here's some education programs. Here's a dance class. Here's something, like, be creative, go do something. I don't think everybody should have to work anymore.
Well, I have a friend who, he's a fellow broadcaster. He's a really good guy. And he said, so some guy comes up to you and says, "Hey, I'm really hungry. Can you give me some money so I can get a taco or a burrito? I'm really hungry." Well, he said, what we need to do? We need to give these guys the equivalent of a credit card kind of a thing. But it's just one of those with a magnetic stripe. And then what we have is all over the country, we have these bicycles with generators on them. And we say, I'll tell you what, you want that burrito or that taco? Go over there, hop on that bicycle, and ride for an hour, okay? And you'll generate some electricity, and you put your card in there, and that'll give you enough money to get that burrito.
Yeah.
And so then we extrapolate that out, and Michelle, the first vacationer, we put her on one of those bikes, and then she becomes half the woman she used to be.
Right. I see your point. I'm noticing how quickly the time is going, and how fascinating all of this is. I just wanted to ask, kind of jump, because I saw a bit on your website, and just jump over, and we don't have to stay there long. This is just, Cynthia's curiosity, because I don't know if you heard at the top of the show that, no, I was talking about when I had the chemtrails, I do have these friends, high ranking in the military, blah, blah, blah. And, they were laughing at me, about, the first man on the moon. They said that the closest that NASA ever got to the moon was Culver City. They said that was all staged, that they had detected certain bacteria in that area, or out, outer space, that close to the moon, that if it was to come back here, it would be like an Andromeda Strain, one of my favorite books. It would just wipe out everybody. And so that's what they told me. I'd love to hear your opinion on that.
Well, if you're asking me if I think we went to the moon, sent a few astronauts to the moon, we landed on the moon, got off, walked around, got back in the space capsule, blasted back off, came home to Earth, I'd say absolutely not. And I'll tell you why I say that. Back in 1993, I had a computer manufacturing company, and I decided to give that company to a school system, a public school system, where I taught entrepreneurship. So I gave them the entire company, and I became a high school teacher teaching entrepreneurship with a real product. The real product was personal computers. So what happened next was a U.S. congressman came to my class, and the Department of Education came to my class and said, wow, this is really cool. This is really the way we do education in the Commonwealth of Virginia. So I was invited to spend 11 days at the State Fair in Richmond, Virginia. So I brought my students with me, and my students all had to wear uniforms to be in my class. That was required. I was a public school. I was the only teacher who did that. So we were in uniform at the State Fair. Now, down the hall from us was a NASA exhibit, and it was an official exhibit with these great big photographs, poster-sized photographs of the moon landing. And because I was there for many days, well over a week, I got a chance during time that the students were taken care of, explaining why we were there at the State Fair. I could wander off and go look at some other exhibits. So I spent some time at this NASA exhibit. And so I was standing looking at this large poster in front of me, and this woman in a NASA uniform came up to me, and she said, "That's really something, isn't it?" I go, yeah, it really is. It really is. But it's a fake. And I was looking at the man on the moon. He was standing there. He had his gold-foiled helmet on. He was in his spacesuit. And there were a couple strange characteristics of that picture. One, there were no stars in the background. Now, I know that if I'm in Virginia, and back then we'd have clear days and you could actually see stars at night. Well, the background was black, but there were no stars. How come? So I said to her, "How come?" And she didn't know what to say. And I said, and look right here. Look right here at this very spot in the reflective mask of the spacesuit, of the helmet. Look right there in this gold foil. You can see a photographer with a tripod taking his picture. And he doesn't have a spacesuit on.
Oh my God.
And
I've heard.
She changed color. She became bright red, I guess. And she looked at me and she said, "You're absolutely right. We took that picture on a stage." And I said, "Okay, let's go over here and look at this one." So we went over to the one, you've seen it, the lunar lander is on the surface of supposedly, allegedly, the moon. And there are these round discs that are, the pads that support the structure. And they are on the surface of the moon. Well, if you think about it, if the jets are slowing the descent of this lunar lander, what happens is the dust that would be kicked up by these jets blasting down like a compressor air hose, right? Blasting down on this loose lunar surface, there'd be dust everywhere. It would be, let's call it airborne for months because of the lack of gravity, right? 1/6 that of Earth. Well, if you look at this lunar lander pad, on the surface of the moon, there's no dust on it. Now, did someone get out and dust it off before the picture? I don't think so. So I showed her that. And she said, well, you're right. And I said, and what about this one over here? So here we've got this astronaut tethered out, circling the moon, orbiting the moon. Okay. He's on this tether and he's floating in space, and he's in the foreground. In the background is the picture of the spacecraft, or of the spacecraft is in the picture. Who took the picture?
Right. Right.
So she said, okay, you're absolutely right. Well, let me add to the rest of the story. So she admitted to me that, yeah, you're right. We staged these. Well, many years later, I believe around 2008, I was buying some seeds in Missouri. And I was at a seed company that sold nothing but heirloom seeds down the road from me, about 20 miles down the road from where I am right now. And somehow I struck up a conversation. It was the end of the day and the business was about closing. But there were only 4 people there. My wife, me, this other guy and his wife. And it was really quiet. And somehow this conversation arose about the moon landing. And I said it was a fake. And this guy challenged me. And I said, and I told him the same thing that I just told you about these photographs. And he said, you're absolutely right. Now, he was playing the devil's advocate. And I said, so why are you now saying I'm right? He goes, I was the photographer.
Oh my God. Wow.
So it happened in Houston. It happened in Houston, Texas. That's where the
it
state
wasn't in Culver City.
It was in Houston.
Okay, wow. Well, we got a few minutes here. Before we finish, since he is right, there's so much that I could just sit here and talk to you for hours. What do you think's most important? Now, your main goal here is to get people prepared. So what can we do to be prepared in general? We got about 8 minutes, 7 minutes.
Yes, and I also want to give Vincent an opportunity to give out, his information too about his websites and his radio show, and I want that to get out as well.
Oh yeah, we'll do that.
Well, my concern here, let me tell you why I think people should be prepared, and then we can talk about what. My vision is that if the power grid were to go down, and it will, we just don't know when. When that happens, all commerce stops, right? Who knows the price of anything in the store? Aren't there barcodes for everything? Isn't every item scanned in today? Isn't it a computer that determines the price that you and the cashier sees at the same time when you're checking out? Okay, ordering of replacement inventory is done by computers, internet, and electrons. Well, if the electricity goes down, the internet goes down, the commerce stops. That means gasoline, diesel, fuel. That means that the young mother who is listening to her baby cry because her baby is hungry and they're out of formula, she turns to her husband and says, don't you hear her crying? Do something. Okay, so this guy wants to be the manly father, and he's going to go out and he's going to go get some formula. Well, how's he going to do that if the stores are closed? How's he going to do it? And is he going to come back without it? So either he's going to wait for someone to break that first window in that store and climb through the window after everyone else has gone through, or he's going to break the window himself. So what I'm saying is I believe that civil unrest and chaos will happen within a couple days after the grid goes down. The first day, people are going to say, wow, power's on. Huh. I wonder when they're going to turn it back on. The second day, they're going to say, man, oh man, I'm hungry. I don't have any heat. The heat pump's not working. Or the air conditioning's not working. And they'll be out in the street. So I think there's going to be blood, and I think there's going to be broken glass everywhere. I think chaos will reign. So if that is the case, then what do? I teach something called mini-max regret. And that means as you go through life, you might want to minimize your maximum regret. Now, what's a regret? You're behind a guy who's got a ladder in his pickup truck, and you're going down the highway. And you're thinking, I'll bet you if a gust of wind happens, that ladder's going to go flying out of that pickup truck. It's going to come through my windshield, and I'm going to be wearing that ladder. So if that's a maximum regret, what do? You get out of the way, right? Well, if your maximum regret is you're going to be hungry and thirsty, then why don't you buy some food? So do you have to buy it immediately right now? No. But why don't you wait for sales? Why don't you wait for it's 2 for $1 for those cans? And can you eat canned food without heat? Absolutely. So canned beans, canned corn, and baked beans. Great way to start. Pasta, great way to start. Pasta sauce in jars, it lasts 6 years. How do I know? Because I've tried it. So what I'm saying is, buy the things that you need, the things that you want to eat, and store them, pretty soon. And have at least 3 months worth of food.
Yeah, I've been doing that myself. Start. Yeah, you got to do that.
And then what about water? I mean, here's the reality. 3 minutes without air. 3 days without water. 3 weeks without food. It's as simple as that. Mm-hmm. And we're dead, right? So we need water. We need good, potable water. You need a water filter. I recommend a carbon block type water filter. I'm not going to mention any brand names, but there's some good ones out there, and you need to have one because you can, with pond water, if you filter it, you can drink it. If you don't filter it, and if you don't purify pond water, you can die from bacteria and toxins in the water. Seriously.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Water's important.
Very important. Now, we got a couple minutes here. What about prevention? An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Let's not ever have this happen. Although we can't help it if the grids go down because of the, an asteroid or some non-man-made thing. But how can we prevent this from happening? Can we do anything to fix our government, man? Do we have to overthrow them, or can we just sort of let them? What do we got to do here?
Well, I think we need to take action. Now, we haven't talked about this very much, but I'm an activist. I'm not happy. So what am I doing? I ran for school board office, and I put an ad in the paper, and I said, fire the entire school board, one director at a time. Please consider voting for Vincent Finelli, the only candidate who won't make your child urinate in a cup. That was for drug testing. So, I've done that, and of course I was defeated. And now I've decided I'm going to run for sheriff. So, what's that going to be like? Well, it'll be a constitutional county, that's for sure. So I think people should run for school board. I think they should run for offices. And do you need experience? Heck, what about the guys that are in there now? They're screwing everything up, aren't they?
Right.
Is there any politician that you can think of that you don't think is taking a bribe? I can't.
Maybe Ron Paul back in the day.
Well, okay, let me define politician.
Right, gotcha.
Representatives are people who work for the common good. Politicians are common, and they work for their own good. So when I say politician, by definition, my definition, they're corrupt.
Right. We got you. Oh, it looks like we just ran out of time. Sorry about that, but Vincent Finelli from USAPrepares.com. Thank you very much. What an honor. J. Cynthia Brooks, always a pleasure, my darling. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. ICureCancer.com. We'll catch you next week. Peace.
I believe in the simple things in everything you do. I believe in the heavens above.